Parks Board, or what's your role these days?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me, Emily?
Yeah. It's been a long time. I was wondering what you're up to.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not on the Parks Board, but I am on the Matthews Alive Board of Directors.
That's right.
So
That's
Matthews Alive has a very important interest in what goes on at Stumptown Park.
Of course.
So they've asked me and some other members of that board to join this meeting. So that's why I'm here. And again, I do have as well as that, I have a vested interest in the rest of the community. So I like to be involved.
Of course. Yeah, I knew you were still involved. I didn't know what your role was, but I do remember you being real involved with Matthews Alive. I didn't realize.
Yes. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Good to see you as always. And I apologize. I'm in two meetings at one time, so I'm trying to end one and get on this one. So I'm not ignoring you by looking the other way.
You're fine.
Yeah, now I know you're looking at different meetings, but Jim, in my mind, I only recognize Julie. I mean, Leanne is going to be in on it, but Julie was the only other name that I thought of. I was only going to bring her forward as a panelist along with you. I guess if there's anybody else that may have any other opinion, anything you wanted to share, I guess you two were the only ones I was going to bring forward.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Corey. Julie as the chair, and I am, quite honestly, I'm the vice chair, and Leanne is the executive director. So those are the only three that will be participating on behalf of Matthews Alive tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. Appreciate it. And Corey, just as an FYI, they may actually join after you start. They're trying to finish up a Matthews Alive meeting.
Gotcha. Yeah, Leanne shared. It's always been meeting on the same night. Well, it's been a while. Been on the same night for a while.
Yeah, we're trying to change our gears on our side to avoid this conflict going forward. But we hope that this issue will be resolved in the near future.
Gotcha.
Corey, it looks like Ted is on as well, if you want to bring him to the floor.
See, I didn't pay attention. Yeah, him and...
You start shaking your head. I thought you were going to say, nope, can't let that guy in.
Probably not a good idea, just keep me on the sidelines where I'm safe.
How's it going, Ted?
How's it going, guys?
Things are good.
Now, Corey, is there other business that you guys need to take care of on your agenda tonight before this?
Not before this.
Okay.
We'll just do well, actually, we're going to do some brief introduction, so that will serve as our roll call, and everything else we'll let it slide behind the stakeholder discussion.
Okay. I don't even know how to stop sharing. Stop. All right, I'll hold back here.
Hello, everyone. Howie, Tara, Ryan.
Ryan's here somewhere. Ryan and Sandy are in hiding, but they're here.
Yeah.
There they are. Mark.
Not bad hair.
Mr. Duncan, nice to see you.
And Howie, I wanted to know if you talked to Harvey or his family
Yeah, Harvey was in the hospital. He's not returned calls. He got out on the 7th. We think he's in rehab. We're just trying to figure out where. His living situation is a little different. You can't get answers out of anybody. So Larry Whitley was going to go by Carrington today because that's where he's been in the past.
Okay.
But that's what we understand. He's not home because he's not picking up his phone or returning any calls, but he was in the hospital, but discharged on the 7th.
Okay.
How many days in the hospital? How serious, Howie? Do we know?
I don't know because I've been calling and leaving him voicemail messages for a week now, and he's not called back or picked up. He wasn't having anything serious. The last I talked to him, gout was a problem. He couldn't walk, so I'm hoping that's what it was.
Gotcha. Someone did answer the phone when I called. Maybe it was mid last week, and told me about being in the hospital. It was transported to Uptown, Novant. But I hadn't gotten anything beyond that. And of course, now the voicemail is full. And so
right. And I couldn't even get anyone to pick up his phone because, he has his cell phone with him, but he never answers it when he's not feeling well. So the landline's the only way to get a hold of him. But if I find out where he is, Larry was going to go by Carrington this afternoon. So we were hoping that he's over there, but just don't know.
Okay.
I've gone by the house too, knocked on the door, but nobody answers the door. It's it's a little frustrating, but at least we know he's okay because he's in rehab, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But if you find anything out, please share it because Larry and I are working at our end and we're getting kind of frustrated.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll share what I find out.
Hey, Howie, do you have, I just thought of this. Do you have any contact information for Walter Stewart? Howie's Harvey's partner in crime.
Walter Stewart, that's somebody I don't even know.
He's the gentleman that they did a story about him and Harvey when they built the mud swimming pool when they were kids. They both grew up there in Crestdale. I'm trying to get a hold of Walter. I typically contact him through Twitter, but I don't have a phone number. I just thought you might have one. That's all right.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I don't. I mean, does Larry doesn't have any contact info?
I don't think Larry either knows Walter or communicates with Walter.
All right, because I know Harvey goes to church over at Matthews Merkland. I don't know if Walter goes there. That might be a place to catch up with him too.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's it. That's all I know. Sorry.
It's better than nothing.
Harvey's like a secret agent. You never get any information out of him about anything unless
he works for the CIA. You didn't know that?
That's what he was doing in Saudi Arabia all those years.
So I do have a Chris Sotelli. All right, Chris. Wasn't sure. I guess I'm about to promote you to panelist, or wasn't sure if you were just an interested member of the community or if you were part of one of the groups.
I own the Loyalist Market in downtown, and I think we might be talking about the mural that we're looking to do over there later in this meeting.
Yes, gotcha. Okay, so I'm gonna put you back as a participant, and I'll bring you forward as a panelist when we get to that part on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
All right, we're still missing Debbie and Scott. I think everybody else is in, if I've got it right. I gotta keep scrolling because my iPad only gets 9 faces at a time. So, yeah.
I'm coming. It's taking a while to bring
We'll
everybody.
give him, we'll give him just a couple more minutes to catch on up before we start. And Susan too. Susan Chambers isn't here.
Yeah, we've still got people coming in.
Yeah, see, Susan just came in. And Debbie. Okay, so it's just Scott right now we're missing. Corey, let me know when you're ready to start, since you've got the master screen and you can see more easily everybody who's coming in and out. And
I'm getting there.
not a problem. I'm glad you're handling this, because if I were doing it, I'd be knocking people off and doing all kinds of other nasty stuff.
It gets complicated driving these Zoom things sometimes.
A little bit. All right. It's John.
Hey, Corey, it's John. Sorry, I'm having some technical issues here. I'm here. I can hear you now.
Gotcha. Okay. Right, so did we say it was just Scott that was not in?
That's the only person and Harvey, obviously, but Harvey's not going to be here.
Okay, let's yeah, I'd go on and begin.
Okay, good evening, guys. Everyone, welcome to the another remote meeting of the Matthews Parks Rec and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee. Since we see some new faces that we haven't seen before, I'm going to just ask the members of the committee to identify themselves. I'm Howie Labiner. I'm the chair. Susan, you want to introduce yourself?
Susan Chambers, and I am the co-chair.
Sandy? Sandy, I think you're muted.
Sorry, Sandy Lee.
No problem. Ryan
Ryan McClatchy, good to be here.
and John, I don't know if you're on video. What?
Yeah. Hey, folks, I'm John Gatlin.
Okay, Scott Rose Meisel's not here. Debbie?
Howdy, I'm Debbie Chopis.
Okay, and Tara?
Hi, Tara Van Genderen.
Okay, and Harvey Boyd, another one of our members, is having some medical issues, so he's not going to be with us tonight. We've got the roll call covered, guys. The minutes were sent out for the April 14th meeting. So everybody had a chance to look them over. They're pretty short, only 2 pages. Anybody want to make any comments, changes, corrections to them? If you do, just raise your hand, or just blur it in, it'd be easier. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the April 14th, 2021 meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thanks. I'm going to open this up for public comment with the proviso that we're going to have public comment on Stumptown Park and the Veterans Memorial separately, as well as the mural projects. So if there's anybody here who wants to comment on anything else, why don't you go ahead now? Otherwise, we'll give you a chance during discussion of those topics. Nobody, Corey?
No, I think everyone here is one of the stakeholders.
I figured it was, but just in case. Do you want to explain, Corey, you want to explain the scope of what we're talking about at the Stumptown Veterans Memorial Park, the potential changes, upgrades, delineation, whatever you all want to call it?
Certainly. So where we are now, as you know, back in early 2021, we had multiple conversations about renaming Stumptown Park, evolved into creating ways to sort of make special places within the, I'm going to say park in the collective term, but I'm talking about Stumptown and Veterans Memorial Park. And now we are at the point where we have hired a landscape architect working with Stewart Engineering to, I guess, give staff some direction and I guess help propose a conceptual design to present to town council. Again, we're working with Ted and Emily here with Stewart. We have, well, let me back up a little bit. Of course, went through the process and Stewart rose to the top as they have in a couple of different projects. So pleased to work with them again. And what we have asked Stewart to produce is 3 conceptual designs that we will present to the Matthews Town Board. There were some design criteria that we sort of outlined for Stewart, but they were very broad in scope, really wanting them to take input from you, the stakeholders, and then present some design, but to allow them a little bit of freedom to create something that could be certainly special in this park space. So tonight, this will serve as the stakeholder meeting where they will essentially download all the information. I'll say, you know, some of the history of how we got here, but for the most part, we really want to get the thoughts from the stakeholders, what we would love to see, what we don't want to see, and eventually how these spaces can, I guess, function seamlessly and be, call it synergetic to each other. We did ask Stewart to sort of facilitate this meeting. And
I see Ted's here.
Yeah, so as far as format, you know, we're going to have a conversation essentially. If we were in person, and I don't anticipate us just sort of calling on different people, you know, as you have a thought, but certainly we want to be respectful and allow everyone to fully express their thoughts before we add our thoughts. So with that, I guess I'll hand it over to Emily and Ted to kick us off.
Go for it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen now. So this is our stakeholder meeting. Thank you for the introductions, Corey and Howie, and a little bit of the background of how we got here. I'll go through a little bit of that as well. So start with, if we haven't met, I know I've met several of you on previous projects or already in this process. I'm Emily Blackwell. I'm a landscape architect and I will be the project manager for this project. And I'm also the market lead for our community spaces, which just kind of encompasses all of our work that is with Parks and Rec departments.
And I'm Ted Duncan. I'm a managing studio leader, landscape architect with Stewart. Native North Carolinian, been working in park and rec focused part of this world throughout my career. I do a lot of other types of work as well. And I think it's interesting to see how all of those different aspects of the work that we do as designers and landscape architects kind of informs each other. So it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say tonight, and we appreciate you having us here. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you. So just kind of recap some of the things that Corey was saying and set the tone for our conversations moving forward. I wanted to remind everybody what the project purpose was. I know some of you have probably read the RFP that went out and some of you may not. So these are some of the high level parameters that were outlined for us to keep in mind as we go through this process, which is delineation or creation of a sense of place for the newly defined or newly kind of created Veterans Memorial Park as a sub park to a park within a park to Stumptown, as well as to make sure that no matter what we're doing in kind of either sides of that imaginary line, that we are honoring the veterans in a very meaningful way. And then to make sure the interaction between these two park spaces is seamless and benefits both spaces, so that nothing we're doing for either of the adjacent spaces limits the other. So the scope of what we are under contract to do with the town of Matthews is, of course, our kickoff here and our public input process with you all, as well as we'll take all this information and our own site investigations and what we know about the park and the memorial already, and create 3 conceptual designs that show that complementary interaction between the two spaces. We will generate cost estimates so that we know exactly what that construction cost would be for whatever is being proposed in the 3 designs. And then we'll be presenting those 3 concepts to the town board. So I do want to know, I know in our meeting on site with a few of you the other day, there was a little confusion of what the scope of this project was. And so we do, at this current time, the scope of the project kind of stops at that 3 concept plan. So we will be delivering the 3 plans with the cost estimates to the town board for them to, with the intention to select one, and then we'll be figuring out at that point how they want to move forward. But right now, the plan is to focus on these 3 ideas. So just as a reminder, I'm sure everyone is quite familiar with this park and where it is, but just to show it in a little bit of context, you have John Street running northwest to southeast across town, and then Trade Street running perpendicular, and Stumptown is on that northwest side of Trade Street. So kind of zoom in just to get a little more context. Here's kind of the overall park space with some parking within the park, the primary lawn and stage, the volleyball courts. I think everybody's pretty familiar, and with the Veterans Memorial really on this northern portion of the site. So as I move to the next slide, we have kind of corrected. So north is kind of slightly skewed to the left here, but I just want to zoom in and look at this northern section is where the memorial is currently located. The flagpole, it's kind of obscured by the trees, but flagpoles over here. The new monuments are approximately here, and then the semicircle of memorial plaques is about here. And just for orientation, there's a few large trees and everything, but the playground does sit kind of under the trees over here on the western edge. So here's kind of some imagery so that you guys can just recall. I know some of these features are new to the park last year. So just wanted to have something so we can reference back as we talk, as well as just to remind you guys all the different features in the park. These photos were taken about a month ago, so they are recent. In the flagpole area as well. So after our meeting last week with the town and a few of you kind of kicking off this project, we talked quite a bit on site about all the different things that were important to you. And we're going to be talking with this larger group about that as well. But we did, out of that, distill 3 primary goals that I'm going to review. And if something, these are kind of working goals, they may have, I've reviewed them with Corey. There's, we were still kind of wordsmithing them as of yesterday, trying to make sure we've captured the right essence of this project moving forward. So when we get to the discussion phase of this, it'll be a bit more interactive. And if you see that we've missed the mark or didn't capture what you guys were talking about, feel free to share that. But I'll go through these three primary goals right now. Goal one being, first and foremost, delineating the spaces. The new Veterans Memorial Park is still, technically a part of Stumptown Park. They're not being parceled off. It's not a direct dividing line, but the spaces do need to be defined. So we want to make sure that that each park has a sense of place, and that there's a clear entry and exit. I understood from our meeting last week that was a very important piece to the Veterans Memorial Park, is making sure when you've entered that space. Of course, with every park, but in particular when you're talking about a veteran space, universal accessibility is vital. With veterans coming back and may have injuries or family members that are aging or anything like that, we want to make sure that is top of mind with every part of the design. Locating the edges and connection points. There are some, there have been various exhibits, I think, that have been shown before about where a line might be. But basically, we want to kind of respect what's there now on both sides, both parts of the park, and make sure that those edges and connection points are seamless, but also can, really define those spaces. Second goal is to plan for the celebrations. I know that folks are here from Matthews Alive. That is a huge piece of how this park is used. And as well as the Veterans Memorial, the photo on the bottom is from one of their brick placing ceremonies just a couple of weeks ago, or really, I think a week and a half ago. So we know that there are large events that are happening throughout the year. I know those brick placing and other veterans ceremonies are happening regularly, I think almost monthly, but also you're having concerts, and hopefully, COVID goes away and we get to have more of those events. But, I know that this is your festival park. And so being able to accommodate large events, large amounts of people, figuring out what those seating options are. I know they even brought up the bouncy castles that get put at the top of the hill for Matthews Alive. We got to figure out how all those things can work for those event days. But also, we need to figure out how these spaces are going to function together and seamlessly every day, not just on the event days. So I know that seating for the park is important on whether, I've noted here the Memorial Park because there's really no seating on that northern end, but also increasing whatever we're doing for seating that respects the uses of the lawn and the stage and the everyday park user. I know that the town wants to keep the playground intact and to maintain the walking loop. So kind of goes back to some of those initial parameters that anything we're doing out here needs to positively impact the features that are there already. And additionally, to keep that lawn space open and remain flexible. That word was very key in our discussions with Corey about that they want these spaces to be flexible, not just for the event days, but for the everyday, depending on how someone may want to come out and enjoy the veteran space or to enjoy the park itself, and not to design anything that will limit someone's use. And throughout all of this, reminding ourselves to honor the veterans and honor the veteran space and how they would use it on every day. We know that veterans and other citizens may come out to pay homage to the veterans and to those memorials that are there. So we want to make sure that is accommodated throughout the year, not just on event days. So those are kind of our three goals: of delineating the spaces, planning for event day, and planning for every day. So I think with that, what I'm going to do is actually kind of trade programs here. And this is a program called MIRO that we use frequently for collaboration. And what I'm going to do is I've got a 3 primary questions with sub questions as a part of that. And so what we want to do, and I think to keep it clean, I think we're going to try to use the chat feature in Zoom. So when I ask a question, if you will use the chat, and I think I've got to find the chat on my end. Is the chat enabled? Can everybody see the chat but me?
No.
Chat is
I
not.
don't see any chat option.
No.
Okay. Well, there's probably, we were prepared for a larger group than this. So we're probably a small enough group you guys can just unmute and share your thought for each of these questions. And I will be using some virtual sticky notes to capture that so that we can kind of keep the conversation rolling. And that way, if you looked away while you were thinking about something, look back, you can see that, whether somebody has said something similar already. So
Emily, I'm sorry. Can you? Yeah, perfect. Make that larger.
oh yes, I was just holding back so you wouldn't start jumping in on the questions yet.
Thank you.
Yes, I will be scrolling. So the first thing I wanted to really get you guys talking about is this first question of what's important to you. So first, what's important to you about Veterans Memorial Park? This is kind of wide open, meant to be brainstorming, so we can understand what we need to hold dear through this design process. Y'all can feel free to unmute and share a thought here. Come on.
Hey, it's John. I mean, maybe I'm stating the obvious here, but to me, like clear delineation so that like there's, I don't know, a way to think about it where it stops and starts. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and anything, it could be. It
It's
is meant to be wide open because we're looking for just things that are that you're excited about, things that are important to you. So just to kind of get your thoughts rolling, maybe I'll share a little bit. So I'm going to ask about what's important to you about the Veterans Memorial Park, what's important to you about Stumptown, and what's important about this design process. And then moving into the other section is going to be about what concerns you have about each of those. And then what does success look like? So those are kind of our, I know there's been lots of discussion. We understand that there's been, a lot of passionate discussion about this process over the last year. And we just want to kind of focus on what's going to make it the best result possible.
Emily, if I could make a comment, it's kind of a negative important, but I just want to make sure that it's important that everybody realize that this is not a cemetery. This is a place where people gather and that they it's a meeting place, a place of meditation, but it's also where people can have fun. And as a matter of fact, that picture that you were showing just recently about with those 2 people with their lawn chairs up there close to the memorial. Yep. We've been noticing as we pass that even though there's the entire Stumptown Park, people congregate more toward the paper brick area when they place their chairs, especially at night, because it's quite lovely at night with the lighting. So I just want to make sure it's important that this park is not seen as some somber location. It's a place of celebration.
Emily, just piggybacking on what Mark had to say, the Veterans Memorial has almost an education component too. People don't think about the veterans. There are younger folks who may not even have knowledge of half of what's gone on in the past. And, it's important to let them know the history, because that's how it stays alive over the long term.
Yeah, thank you about that, Howie. Many people don't know this, but we've got an active, we're in communication with the National Historical Society for time capsules. We're starting a time capsule program for each of those monuments. And also there'll be plaques on each of the monuments to give a brief history about what happened during that particular conflict. So it is going to be an interesting point for children and to be educated. I hope someday teachers will bring their classes through and give some kind of feedback for the students.
That's great. Thank y'all for sharing that.
Emily, this is Jim. I think one component that really needs to be focused on is there's a comment up there about a clear delineation. I think the delineation needs to be or should be a soft delineation so that there's no wall or hardscape separation between the two parts, because that would in effect create two distinct areas that will be in competition with each other. I think when the memorial when the veterans have memorial events there, there's overflow into Stumptown Park, and when there's a Stumptown Park event going on, there is overflow into the area of the memorial. And a natural delineation is what's there today is the sidewalk. And quite frankly, anything that would be a wall or an obstruction that would impede or infringe upon that movement back and forth, whether it's a knee wall or larger, I think would be a negative.
Actually, I'm in total disagreement with that. It's a hardscape separation is exactly what we need. This is a park. It's a full-blown park, and it's got the name of Matthews Veterans Memorial Park, and it needs to be treated as a park.
Well, Mark, we can agree to disagree. This is what this opportunity is for.
Yeah, and I am disagreeing with you, Jim, and and she's making the note. So,
but I was not finished with my comment, Mr. Tofano. I'd like to finish my comment, and then I'm happy to let you speak.
I thought you had, Jim. I thought you had. I'm sorry.
Well, I had not. Again,